Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how you can perfectly draft a pattern for your princess that bustier upper bodice. If this is what you like to learn, please watch to the end of this video. And to all returning subscribers, I appreciate you all. Thank you for your support. And if this is your first time checking out my videos, you're welcome. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please click on the subscribe button to subscribe now, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I have two pieces of brown paper for drafting the front and the back body, so I would start with the front body. So I'm going to remove the pattern for the back bodies. I've ruled out my vertical measurements. The first line is the shoulder line, and from the shoulder line I took other vertical measurements. From the shoulder line to 8 inches is half of the round armhole, which is 8 inches, and is also the chest line. Then I have the bust line 9 inches, under bust line 12 inches, front half length 15.5 inches, and I added extra half inch for joining to a peplum or maybe to a skirt. Then for the width of your paper, you need quarter of the bust measurement plus extra 4 to 5 inches, and that is what I have the width of my paper. The first thing I'll do will be to take the shoulder slope, and to do that I'm going to measure from the tip of my paper on the shoulder line. I'm going to note 3 inches and then 8 inches. At the 8 inches point, I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and I'll connect it to the point I made at the 3 inches on the shoulder line like this. Then on the shoulder line, I'm going to take 7 inches, which is half of the shoulder measurement I'm working with. I'm going to repeat that 7 inches on the chest line, and then I'm going to connect the 2 points from the chest line up, and I'll stop at the shoulder slope line, as you can see. Then I'm going to impute quarter of the bust measurement on the chest line. Quarter of the bust measurement is 8.5 inches. I'll then check what I have, the straight line I have. I would find the midpoint. I noted it. At the midpoint, I came in by half an inch for the front armhole. So I'm going to connect from the shoulder slope down to that half inch I came in by, and then to the measurements of the bust on the chest line. So I'm going to make a curve that way from this point to this half inch, and then to the shoulder slope like as shown, and that's for the front armhole. The next thing will be to take the waist dart. To do that, I'm going to impute half of the bust span, the nipple to nipple measurement I'm working with. Half of it is 4 inches. I'm going to add extra half inch to that, making it 4.5 inches, and I'll note that on the bust line, the under bust line, and on the waist line, and I'm going to make them into a straight line. I added half inch because I'm adding all allowances on this pattern. Then I'm going to take a total of 2 inches dart on the waist. So I'm going to take 1.5 inches on the left side. On the left side of this line, I'm taking 1.5 inches dart. Then on the right, I'm going to take half inch, making it a total of 2 inches. 2 inches that taken from the waist. Then on the under bust line, I'm going to take 1.5 inches on the left side and 1 inch on the right side, making it a total of 2.5 inches. That is, the under bust that is half inch more than what I've taken from the waist dart. I'm going to connect the points from on the under bust to the point on the half length. Then from the bust point line, I'll come down by 1 inch, and then connect the dart legs on the under bust to this 1 inch I came down by from the bust line. So I'm using a French curve to connect. I'm not using a straight ruler. I'm connecting it in a curvy manner, as you can see. The next thing I'll do will be to measure the armhole. I'm going to measure from the shoulder slope down to the chest line, where the armhole curve stopped, and I had 8.5 inches. I'll divide that into 2 by folding my tape into 2 this way. I'll find that measurement on the armhole line, and then I'll come down by half an inch. I'll add extra half an inch for joining allowance because I'm adding all allowances on this pattern. Then I'm going to connect that point to the bust point line, the bust span line on the bust point line. So I came up by half an inch. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So I came up by half an inch and I connected it. You can come up as much as 1 inch if your bust is up to 36 and above. So now I'm going to add my circumference measurement. I've already imputed the bust measurements. To that I added extra 1 inch for joining the center front and the side front together when the dart is cut out. Then on the waist, I'm going to impute quarter of the waist measurement plus 2 inches that will be cut out as darts from the waist, plus extra 1 inch for joining the darts together when they are cut off, making it extra 3 inches added to the waist measurement. And I'm connecting the measurement on the waist to the measurement on the chest line. Then I'll add extra 1.5 inches on the chest line and on the waistline for joining allowance. Here you can add any allowance, any measurements you want for your allowance. The next thing I'll take will be the bust dart. So the bust dart is the difference in between the front half length and the back half length, and in this tutorial the difference is 1.5 inches, and that's what I'm taking. So this is not constant. On the average you have about 2 inches. So to measure your half length, the front and the back, you tie a rope around the waist and measure from the shoulder to the front where the rope is passing or stopping. That's the front half length, and then you take from the shoulder to the back where the rope is also crossing from the waist, and that will be the back half length. So you now check the difference, and that will be what you take for your bust dart. So for mine is 1.5 inches. So from the bust line I came down at this measurement where my normal measurement stopped. I came down by 1.5 inches, and I'm connecting it also to the bust line at the bust span line. Okay, I connected it to the bust span line. I came down from the bust line by 1.5 inches and connected it, so you can see what I have. So the next thing now will be to cut to close the bust dart. You have to close that side because you don't want to have your pattern in pieces. So to do that, I'm going to cut through the waist dart. I'll cut through the waist dart. I'm going to make sure I carve out the sharp points. I'm using my curve ruler to carve out the sharp points. So lest I forget, at this armhole area I'm going to come up by half an inch. I've already added allowances, so I'm adding this to avoid shortage, and I'm connecting it back to I'm reconnecting it back to the chest line to form a new armhole curve. So that will be the new armhole curve. So I'll go ahead and cut this to the bust line, and then I'm going to enable me fold this paper. So you can see how I'm folding this. This is how it's supposed to be. So I'll be closing this up like this, but when you close it, you see that the side seam lines are shifted. So I'm going to reconnect them back. I will reconnect it back to the chest line. So I'm using my marker to reconnect it, so you can see this extra, right? You can see this extra now, so you won't cut that out. It will be part of the pattern. So I'll go ahead and cut through this bust line. You can see the way I'm cutting through it. I'll cut very close to the nipple to nipple line up to that point, but I don't cut through there. Then I'm going to close it this way, so you can see what I have. I would use my masking tape to hold this in place. I don't want my pattern to be in pieces, so I'm going to hold them together with a masking tape. So I'll hold this so that the side would be one piece. The side front will now be one piece. Once I hold this together, I'm going to use my masking tape to hold them together. For the neckline, I'll use a standard neckline. I'm going to use a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 3 inches. So I'll just use my French curve to make a curve for my neckline, and I'll also add ½ inch on the shoulder for joining the front and the back shoulder together. Then I'll go ahead and cut the pattern. Everything is complete now, so I'll go ahead and cut out this pattern. So please, I want you to take note of something. This tutorial is for small to big size. You can use this tutorial to make your pattern for small to big size. So if it's a big size person, you can increase your darts, but for plus size person, say someone with a bust circumference of 49, 50 and above, this is not the pattern you use. I have a detailed tutorial on how you can draft a princess dart bustier for plus size people, big people with big boobs of bust circumference of 48, 49, 50 and above, and I'll drop the link to that video in the description box. So this will not be the tutorial, this will not be the pattern or how you have to cut for them. If you use this method, you might not get a good fit for them. So I'll drop the link to that video in the description box. So this is it for the front pattern. So I'll go ahead now and start the drafting for the back parts. For the back, I've taken all vertical measurements. At the back, you don't need the bust line and the under bust line. So I have shoulder to chest line 8 inches to half length 14 inches plus extra half inch for joining allowance. The zipper allowance I'm working with is 1.5 inches and all measurements will start from the zipper allowance line. On the shoulder line, I'm going to note 3 inches 8 inches, and at the 8 inches point I'll come down by half inch for the back shoulder slope. I came down by half inch and I'll connect to the 3 inches point. Then on the shoulder line, I'm going to impute 7 inches, which is half of the shoulder, and I'll also impute that on the chest line and connect the point on the chest line up to the shoulder slope as shown. Then I'm going to find the midpoint of this line and note it. I would note the midpoint of this line, and then I would impute quarter of the bust measurement on the chest line. Using a French curve, I'm going to make a curve for the back armhole, connecting the measurement on the chest line to half the midpoint I just noted. The next thing I'll do will take my darts. So I'm going to impute half of the bust span on the chest line and on the waist line. Half of the bust span is 4 inches and I did not add any allowance to this. From the chest line, on this line I just ruled, I came down by 1 inch, and then on the waistline of this line I also took half inch on both sides of this line for the back dart, and I'm connecting it to the 1 inch I came down by. This is for the back dart. It will be sewn in, it will not be cut out. Then to eliminate zip bulge, at the zip allowance on the waist, I'm going to come in by 3/4 of an inch, 0.75, and I'll connect that to the chest line as I'm demonstrating. I'll connect this to the chest line this way. So to avoid having shortage, I'm going to remeasure 1.5 inches. My zipper allowance is 1.5 inches, so I would remeasure 1.5 inches from this 3/4 of an inch I came in by and connect it to the measurement at the center back as shown. You can see what I have, because that first 3/4 of an inch will be cut out, okay, to eliminate zip bulge. So I'm labeling my zipper allowance. This is my zip allowance. Now from this measurement I came in by, this is where I'm going to take my waist measurement. You see where I'm taking my measurement from? I'll take 1/4 of the waist measurement plus extra 1 inch for that. I've already taken half inch on both sides, so that's 1 inch for my dart, and I've connected to the measurements on the chest line. Then I'll go ahead and take 1.5 inches side seam allowance. That's what I took for the front side. I took it on the chest line, on the waistline, and connected. Then for the neckline, I'm going to take a standard neckline for the back, 3 inches by 1 inch. The depth is 1 inch, 3 inches because I have 3 inches neck width in front, and I'm connecting as shown. I'll go ahead also and take the half inch joining allowance on the shoulder, because I've also taken that on the front pattern. So I'll take this and then cut out the back piece. Cut out the back pattern, sorry. So while cutting, remember that these parts for the zip bulge should be cut out. Then you go ahead and cut out the rest of the pattern. So guys, we've come to the end of today's tutorial. When you place the side front and the side back together, you can see that the side seams align. That is because of the proper bust that was taken. The bust that should be the difference in height between the front half length and the back half length. So when I place them together, you see that they are matching together. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please subscribe and also turn on the notification bell so that you'll be the first to be notified every time I upload a new video. And I'll also be dropping a link to a playlist where I have various bustiers and princess dart styles, so you can check that out and you might learn 1 or 2 things from there. In my next tutorial, I'll be using this pattern to make a beautiful blouse. So go ahead and draft your own pattern, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.